So in this video, I want to go over a few reasons behind why I have 20 credit cards and how having all these cards actually somehow helps me to be a really frugal person who honestly saves the majority of their income. And I know that sounds a little contradictory because most people assume that having more credit cards equals more spending, but in my own personal finance system, credit cards have sort of become the perfect tool to help me reduce my expenses while also just being a lot more purposeful with my money. Now, the first reason for having that many cards has absolutely nothing to do with the points that I earn or the travel that I get to do with those points, but instead it's actually the way these cards help to make budgeting and tracking my spending just a whole lot easier. Now, I know that budgeting sounds boring because to a lot of people, it might seem like it's kind of the financial version of going on a diet, but I promise you that if you budget like I do, it really feels a lot more freeing than anything and not so restrictive because my main focus here is just to become more aware of my spending habits. So every month at the very beginning of the month, I use a simple budgeting template that I created to estimate what my income is going to be from the salary that I pay myself for my business. And then I also estimate whatever my different personal expenses might be throughout the month for things like rent, groceries, gas for my car, and other stuff like that. And then my template takes my estimated income and subtracts my estimated expenses to give me an estimated profit. Then as the month goes on, I just update the sheet to track my actual income and my actual expenses. And this is where my credit cards come into play here because a few times throughout the month, I'm just logging into my credit card accounts and then viewing all my transactions where they're all nice and organized. And then I just copy those transactions into my budget so that at the end of the month, I could see what my actual profit was. And from there, I could basically just compare that to my estimates and then decide if I need to improve on anything. Now, I made another video that goes into much more detail about my whole budgeting process, so I'm gonna leave a link to that at the end of this video. But I also just wanted to quickly mention that no, I do not use all 20 of my credit cards every single month. So I'm only using either one credit card for everything in certain months or maybe 4 to 6 cards in other months, but I'll explain more about how that works in just a minute here. Now, you could definitely budget by only using cash and a debit card. However, I actually did try that for a month a couple of years ago and I made a video about it where I got sort of mixed results. And that's because first of all, honestly, I found that cash transactions are just really hard to keep track of with the whole mess of paper receipts that I started collecting. And then second of all, when I used cash or even a debit card, I knew that I was not getting the same security and protections that my credit cards offer. And on top of that, of course, I knew that I was missing out on earning rewards, and earning those rewards is going to be the next reason for why I have so many credit cards. Now, because I've been very consistent with budgeting the way that I do it for the past few years now, I'd say that I've become very conscious of just my overall spending habits. So in other words, I know almost exactly where I plan to spend every single dollar. And because of that, I've been able to get the right credit cards so that I'm getting the most value back from each dollar that I was already going to spend anyway. To me, the mindset is very different when you're using credit cards with some sort of a budget or a spending plan because there's just going to be a lot more intention behind that spending. Whereas other people out there might be using credit cards in more of a reactive kind of way to either help them finance expenses in between paychecks or to maybe even buy stuff now that they don't want to save up for to buy later. Now, like I said before, in some months I'm using one credit card for basically everything, while in other months I'm using around 4 to 6 credit cards. The way that I decide how many cards I'm going to use really just comes down to whether or not I'm working on a new welcome bonus. So many people, including myself, usually start out in the whole credit card game with the goal of matching our highest spending categories with whatever cards out there have the best multipliers that sort of match those categories. That's actually the direction that my conversations normally go with friends and family when they ask me about credit cards. So they'll say to me, "Hey Daniel, what credit card should I get for groceries?" or "What card should I get for gas spending?" And that's totally a fine place to start, but it's not the only way to think about earning rewards. I think it's good to slowly build out what I call your core credit card setup. So personally, I've got cards like the Built MasterCard where I earn 1 Built point per dollar on rent without any extra transaction fees. I've got the Amex Gold card to earn 4x on restaurants and groceries. I've got the Citi Custom Cash, which I only use for gas to earn 5x on that. And then for anything else that doesn't fall under a higher multiplier, I've got good catch-all cards like the Chase Freedom Unlimited, earning 1.5x on everything else, or my fiance's Capital One Venture X to earn 2x on everything else. However, on top of that core credit card setup, every single year, I also like to take advantage of welcome bonuses on new credit cards because it's basically through those bonuses where I've been able to earn the most points in the shortest amount of time. And that's really thanks to the way these welcome bonuses are structured. So for example, when I got a card like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, they're always running the standard offer out there for a bonus of 60,000 Chase points after spending $4,000 in your first 3 months. And if we do some math there, 60,000 points divided by your first $4,000 in spending is going to be equal to 15x points per $1 spent. So effectively effectively that's like getting 15x back on everything until you hit that minimum spend to get the bonus. And that's obviously going to beat the 4 to 5x back that I was getting with any of those other cards in my core setup. Because of that, generally my strategy is that if there's ever a really good sign up bonus going on that I want to take advantage of, then after I get approved for that card, I'll only use that one card for almost everything except for maybe rent, because I'm just using my built MasterCard for that, which I explained in another video. But by using that one card for almost everything, I'm able to easily hit minimum spends to earn my sign up bonuses, because again, that's going to give me the highest return on each dollar that I plan to spend anyway from my budget. I also just want to reiterate here, but I could pay cash or use a debit card for all this budgeted spending, but because I keep a 6-month emergency fund in my high yield savings account and then another 1 to 2 months worth of cash in my checking account, I've been able to sort of create a safety net that just keeps me away from ever carrying a credit card balance, which you never want to do anyway. So I'm basically just treating my credit cards like a debit card by using them to only pay for things that I have the cash for right now. Then I just pay off those cards on time and in full every single month and collect the rewards. Now for the next reason about why I have 20 credit cards, I wanted to talk about why that number has become 20 cards over the years instead of just 5 or 10 cards. And the reason for that, at least for me personally, is because of the business spend that I have from the business that I run. And with that kind of spending comes the opportunity to use business credit cards. I actually have 8 business cards at the moment out of my 20 total cards, and there's really 2 main reasons for why these business cards have played such a big role in my wallet. So first, they usually come with higher sign-up bonuses and business optimized multipliers. And second, they help me to earn even more points while still remaining very frugal in my overall personal spending. The beauty of owning your own business is that any spending you do is ideally going towards expenses that you believe are necessary to operate, generate revenue, and hopefully turn a profit at the end of the day. So by passing that business spend through the right business credit cards, not only are you hopefully building wealth through the cash flow and the value of your business, but you're also capturing an extra percentage of that necessary business spend in the form of valuable credit card rewards. The cool thing here, like I said, is that these business credit cards have some crazy good offers because credit card issuers want to make money from you putting all of your business spend on their credit cards. So they're willing to run these really great sign-up bonuses that can just be a lot higher than what you'll find on personal cards. So for example, I talked earlier about the personal Chase Sapphire Preferred card, which has a 60,000 point offer after spending $4,000. Well, essentially the business version of that card, the Chase Inc. Business Preferred, that's got a standard offer of 100,000 points after spending $8,000. So a higher minimum spend, but also a higher bonus in exchange for that. Now, I've talked about this before, but many of the most popular business credit cards out there from issuers like Chase, Amex, Capital One, and Citi, they're really designed for small businesses and even people with side hustles. So almost anyone out there doing any type of business activity can usually get approved for these cards. And I made a full guide on how you can do that, how you can get approved in another video that I'll link to down below. So yeah, in my own personal experience, having a business and using business credit cards has definitely helped me a lot to continue earning more points while also growing my business and still just remaining very frugal in my personal life. So that's sort of been like a win-win-win situation. Now, okay, we've talked a lot about earning rewards with my 20 credit cards, but collecting all these points would be absolutely pointless. And yes, pun intended there, but collecting all those points would be absolutely pointless here if I did not have a bigger purpose behind why I'm doing this. And that leads me to the next reason for having so many credit cards here, which is that points and miles make travel affordable. Now, of course, as someone who's very minimalist and frugal, I'm always looking for ways to cut back wherever I can. So I've lived at cheap studio apartments and shared rent with roommates or my fiance to save on housing costs. I drive an affordable used car. I've always brought lunch into work instead of going out for lunch every day. But basically, I just like to find ways to eliminate spending that doesn't bring me a ton of value. However, when it comes to spending on travel, I ran into sort of an issue because on one hand, travel was something that I found incredibly valuable, but on the other hand, it was also incredibly hard to find ways to consistently save money on it other than simply not traveling. So again, that's where credit cards have become a huge money saver for me personally, because I started reading about points and miles stuff back in 2018 as I was starting my career. So after getting a few Chase credit cards and saving up some points, I went on a few trips in early 2020. I saved hundreds of dollars on flights and hotels. Then I was hooked because I felt like I was finally able to get travel that fit into my budget by redeeming my credit card points. Now, unfortunately, the world shut down and travel kind of stopped for a bit right after those first couple of trips in 2020, so I had to put things on hold. But during that time, I began to plan out the rest of my credit card strategy. I started sharing my thoughts here on YouTube in January 2021. Then the rest is history as I've continued to grow this channel while also visiting countries out there like Jamaica, France, Portugal, England, and a whole bunch of other places in the US as well. And the total cash price of all this travel would have been tens of thousands of dollars, but my credit card points allowed me to save that money instead while still getting to experience all the travel that I wanted to do. Now, this is the reason for why I'm on team travel and not team cashback in the whole world of credit cards, because I could just be earning cashback rewards from my normal day-to-day spending, and that would be just fine. So for example, I could earn maybe 50,000 points, and then I could turn around and redeem that for $500 of cash back, which isn't bad, but there's just a lot greater potential for outsized value when redeeming points and miles for travel instead. So I could earn those same 50,000 points and turn that into maybe $1,000 or $1,500 of value for hotel stays and flights. And because I value travel a lot right now at this point in my life, saving money on travel like this just helps me to be frugal and save even more money than I could with cash back. To me, being frugal is really just all about getting the most value and enjoyment out of whatever I do choose to spend my money on, and then just cutting out the rest. So again, I don't drive a fancy car because honestly, I could care less about cars. I hate going out shopping, and my fiance Jackie just gets so annoyed with me because I absolutely never buy anything on the spot. Like I have to go back home and then think about whether I have to buy that or not, and then I do a bunch of research and read the reviews. So yeah, it's just a mess. I never like shopping. And then the other thing that I found after years of budgeting and being very hyper aware of my spending is that as I've become more frugal and as I've advanced in my career, I've also been able to increase my savings rate. And honestly, saving more money right now while I've been this young in my 20s has been so valuable because it's allowed me to invest more in terms of investing back into myself and my business, but also in terms of investing into the stock market through index funds and stuff like that. And investing as much as possible while I'm this young is great because it's gonna allow me to have a lot more time for all that money and all that experience to just compound over time and grow over the next few decades. But like I said, travel has still been something that I really wanted to prioritize in my 20s as well, because this is really the one time in my life where I don't have as many overall responsibilities as I might with like raising a family and stuff like that just yet. So using my credit cards in combination with my simple budgeting method has really been the perfect solution that's allowed me to travel more while still being able to save money to get ahead financially. Now, if you want to learn more about my whole budgeting process and even download the free budgeting template that I created and I use myself, then definitely go ahead and check out this video over here on the screen next if you haven't already. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.